Good morning, or good evening, depending on your time zone. On today's agenda, we dive into how scary life can be in our normal day-to-day life. I have a bone-chilling story for you thrill seekers, but before I get into this story, I just want to say thank you for your patience in my long-awaited return. I'm not going to bore you with the details of my absence, but I do want to thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoy the spine-tingling story brought to your ears by the Redditor, Cabinfog. And without further ado, let's get started. The lady in the basement. I was the one who found Jake dead. Tucked in the dark corner of the parking garage in his idling pest control truck that vibrated minutely. The parking garage always had a humming from stainless metal fans to circulate the hot and humid Virginia air. Walking closer to the truck, I saw that his chemical box in the bed of the truck was open, with the top flap sticking straight up. I thought nothing weird about the open box because it's not just us and the pest control company that live there. From time to time, we steal from other trucks. For the summer, the company buys out dozens of rooms for the employees to stay. Most employees are door-to-door salesmen, who make a living selling pest control as a same-day service. Where Jake and I, with a few others, come into play is after the sale. The ones who actually spray your house. The ones who interact with the customers and bring them down to reality after the salesmen fluff our feathers. Or are they fluffing their own? We are the ones who click the rat trap mouths in place, with black jagged teeth, whitening. With the delicious blue neon food for the rats to nibble on and share with the newborns. We had 7 other trucks in the parking garage, and from time to time, chemicals went missing. Sometimes us technicians didn't want to wake up early and drive 30 minutes to the office to pick up more materials. Truckers were closer. Much closer. I'd be lying to you if I didn't steal a DeWeber every now and then off a truck, but I always made no trace of the thievery. I can't speak for everyone, though. So, when that lid was pointing up to the rusty pipes and concrete ceiling above, I wasn't surprised. Hell, I might have had a smirk on my face. With the swing of my arm, I slapped the box closed. A whiff of chemicals spewed out and hit my nose, which gave me a feeling of a sneeze that almost never comes. I gave the window a knock to see if he would turn around. Silence. I got closer to see if he was glued to his phone and didn't hear me, or didn't even bother looking. I put my hands up to the window and smushed my eyebrows against my index fingers to get a better look. I saw the seat was fully reclined back. Him laying there, still as a morning lake. I knocked on the smaller back half door. No movement. It was too dark to see, so I dug my hand in my pocket to get my phone light out and put it flush to the back oval airplane-shaped window. That's when I saw his face. God, his face. Skin, a purplish hue and pulled tight by swelling. Eyes, adrift in red, which were bulging out like they wanted to leave. Jaw open, with dark fluid sitting in his mouth, escaping the sides. The streak of dark liquid rolled down his purple face, curving down the back of his neck, and dribbling down the strands of his hair, meeting the headrest. My eyelids were open so wide they touched my eyebrows. His fingers curled limply around a chemical bottle, cap off, and the liquid color matching that of the pool in his mouth. "Jake?" I whispered. My voice feels like it was stolen from me. My skin tingling like an unknown channel on TV as heat takes over. I begin to fall. The last thing I notice are my fingers streaking down the window. I passed out. 4 months pass. I'm moving out of the building where it happened. I've wanted to get out of this building since it happened, but I didn't really have the financial backing. Now I plan to stay in Virginia for the winter and move in with roommates from the pest control company. The salesmen call this time their off-season, due to them all leaving and going back home. Most to Vegas. My other 2 roommates run the regular technician routes, which consist of stopping at 14 to 15 designated houses a day. spraying chemicals and setting traps to take care of the contracts those grimy salesmen sell. I used to share a room with Jake. All of his things were taken out, either by investigators or the maid service. The other roommates in the building told me to combine the abandoned twin bed with mine, but I never touched it. I couldn't. I'm making this entry due to finding something. Something I believe was very close to Jake. The last day of moving, I had everything packed but my mattress in my box spring. While moving my mattress lazily, with the sheets still on, I lost grip, and it hit his mattress, sliding it off the box spring and hitting the wall. I let go of my mattress, automatically. I wanted to fix his bed. Preserve it. I wrapped my hands around his mattress when a wave of dizziness veiled over me. My hands became clammy. I didn't want to touch his mattress anymore. Like a kid that doesn't want to touch an old person. I had to put it back. If I didn't, it would haunt me forever. My mind yelled at me. Just as I forced myself to slide the mattress back, my middle knuckle dropped into a slight groove, and I stopped in place. I pushed the mattress to the right and traced where my knuckle had been, and I found a slit in the box spring. I hesitated, staring at the unnatural slash in the cloth, thinking about when Jake and I would make fun of our manager, who always had a bone to pick with Jake ever since the first day they met. The new manager, 2 years younger than us, yelling at Jake to tuck in his shirt, while his own was untucked, covering his belt and belly. A smile slowly disappearing from my face as I was brought back, with my whole forearm now in the slit of the box spring. My fingers clutched an object that had to be a book. I pulled my arm out of the box spring, like pulling a calf out of its mother, now half expecting to see red viscous liquid and tiny wet legs. My eyes shut slowly, like elevator doors closing. But my hand appeared dry and my fingers clenched around a book of some sorts. The outside of the book was void of color, almost like it absorbed it instead. I sat down on my thrown mattress, and the empty apartment surrounded me. I flipped to the page as the spine creaked at me. I saw Jake's name, and it clicked in me that this wasn't a book. It's Jake's notebook. I flipped page after page, reading Jacob's writings about days of killing bugs and missing home till I got to the page. Sometimes I wish I wasn't so lazy. I could have taken the sheet off this bed. This would have never have happened. I would have never have found the notebook. The apartment seemed to be slightly closing in on me now, like I was in the digestive tract of some huge monster. God. The page. In big dark letters, he had written, "The lady in the basement is the reason why I'm gone." I was stuck reading the words again and again, thinking I was seeing things. My heart was pumping so vigorously I could hear it agitate the fabric of my shirt little by little, each beat. There was an arrow so dark that it seemed to suck in the light and point towards the right of the page, wanting someone to flip it, or something to flip it. So I did. For the next pages he wrote why, and I, clinging to every word, began to read. 2 months pass. The warm, thick air has passed now, leaving a cold gray in the air. Virginia feels less claustrophobic with the heat gone. Winter is stinging its way into the picture more and more, breath starting to become visible almost every day. My new apartment looks over the town of Arlington, which is a nice view from the 13th floor. Whenever people ask where I live, I tell them,
"Oh, it's 5 minutes from the Pentagon."
I've said it so much it numbs me. There are 3 guys in total that live in this apartment, so the decor is minimal at best. Our TV stand is an upside-down plastic bin, with our coffee table another bin. At least it's a set. The floor is thick, worn carpet, light tan in color. The walls have the same yellowish void look. My favorite part of the apartment is the balcony that spans the entire side of the living room, to which I can see a sliver of the Potomac River. An icy cold thing this time of year. I've marinated with Jake's notebook for a while. I think I'm ready to share some of what's inside. Jake goes into some extreme detail about these situations, so I'll just copy them down for you all to read. I think that's what's best. Thursday, July 18th, 2020. 7 months ago prior. Today, I am changed. It was right after lunch when my work phone notified me a house was booked. Usually I dislike the salesman, but the one that booked me was just alright. Tolerable. I pulled into the neighborhood as the sun dimmed from the clouds rolling in. A storm, maybe. Multiple groups of 6 townhomes were placed throughout the neighborhood, with tall trees and bushes linking them. The small homes shared walls, only separated by a slight offset in depth, looking like crooked teeth. Porches stuck out a messily foot from the homes, which were more for decoration than enjoyment. The porches all had different faded color variations that staggered from each house. Blue, red, orange, green, and back to blue. The peeling wood porches had the style of a Western movie set, which I thought was interesting. But I knew the webs were going to be a bitch to get out. I rolled up to the address the app told me, as the salesman popped out of some trees to greet me, probably pissing. I rolled down the window and stopped the truck, wheels stopping the popping of gravel underneath. He gave me the rundown of the house while leaning on the windowsill of my truck, where the smell of sweat leaked in from him. He mentioned the old woman that lived in the townhome and said she was an oddball, but kind. I thought nothing of it. Just another job before getting off. As I parked the car, I asked the salesman, "Interior?" He replied, "Yes." My shoe cover zipped on the asphalt as I walked toward the door, pump tank in hand. The old woman opened the splintered door as I introduced myself and got all the signatures I needed to apply the pesticides. Legal reasons. The first thing I noticed about the woman was her eyes. They looked worn, tired, as if she stayed up all night, or something was keeping her up. I smiled as I slipped the signed papers in the back pocket of my jeans. She reciprocated the smile and pushed the door open wide as creaks escaped the hinges. Right before I stepped in, I saw the salesman grab a de-webber from my truck. He is all right, the salesman. I looked back, and the old woman kept her eyes on my face. I smiled again to break the awkward silence. The smell of wet concrete hit my nose when I stepped in the home. It started to rain behind me. It cut off when the door closed. The old woman's home was tight, like lungs that never sucked air back in. The layout was like a strip of gum. The start was the door I walked through, and the end was the living room, which had a step down. She offered me water, which I politely declined. I could see the kindness the salesmen were talking about. The home was filled with random knickknacks, but wasn't messy. Organized chaos. I asked her the routine questions about bugs, like where she was seeing them, to which she replied almost everywhere. Thank God this house was small. I started to spray in the kitchen around the sides of the refrigerator and the baseboards. The woman followed me almost attached to the hip, or like an obedient dog. I didn't think it was weird. She kept conversation, and genuinely looked fascinated about where I sprayed. While listening to my little tips, I replayed from the back of my mind of how to keep bugs away. We rounded the kitchen and stepped down into the living room, where carpet matched my boot covers with peppered static zaps. I sprayed the sliding back door, focusing on the bottom track where bug highways usually gravitated. Then I tracked the baseboards around the living room, avoiding wires, power lamps, and televisions. I heard a quick stomping coming down from the stairs, to which I gave a glance of curiosity to the bottom of the staircase and temporarily lifted my hand off the spraying trigger. A child rounded the corner and ran to the old woman, yelling,
"Grandma!"
Must have woken up from a nap or something. The child then looked up at me and asked who I was, and she explained in young terms,
"He's here to make the bugs go away."
I smiled at that to reaffirm the old woman's version of me that she gave. I was a version who told the bugs to go away, not kill them by the thousands. I liked that version of myself. I had finished treating the main floor and now followed the old woman and child up the stairs, her veiny hand scratching her grandson's head. I went through every room, closet, bathroom, and windowsill, spraying with the old woman still following me everywhere I went, pointing out the hot spots, her close presence becoming normal, almost warming, as she reminded me of my grandmother. The child seemed just as interested in asking his grandmother how I sprayed, and I thought it was wholesome. But after this, things took a dark and sinister turn. My job was now finished. We were all on the main floor, and I began to reach for the front door and tell her we would finish the outside service now, when she, for the first time, broke her distance from me. This made me feel, for a lack of better words, alone. She steadily glided toward the living room, not looking back as she stepped down the dip, heading for the couch. Did she forget I was still in the house? Did she imagine opening the door and letting me out? The kid then followed her and jumped off the small dip in a childlike fashion into the living room and landed on the carpet, gracing his tumble. The old woman never sat down, and her back was facing me as she stood there. Still, why didn't she sit down? She broke the silence right as my fingers touched the front doorknob. Her voice was colder now.
Won't you come in here for a second?
The knob rang numbly for a second as my hand slipped off. I then took a step toward the living room, slowly. The rain now beating on the old woman's back door, with the flash of illumination. Lightning struck close. Then thought of the salesman with the metal DeWeber pole, that combination like brushed teeth and orange juice. The thought was erased as the tip of my boots hung off the step of the living room. I looked at the woman's face and stepped in the living room, her wiry hair now covering some of her face with a blank stare. The kid now hugging her legs, hiding his whole body except the right side of his face. The eyeball piercing me. Her hair was delayed as she snapped her head at me. Then the hair caught up and fell. Her face then shook like when a student tries to stay awake in class. She then looked around, lost, and took a deep breath. She said,
Sorry, sometimes I get these headaches. They just take over me.
as she laughed it off dryly. I told her,
It's fine. I get them too.
I get them too? Are you stupid, Jake? She then raised her old, saggy arm, pointing to the door. I knew what this door led to, being in hundreds of townhomes with the same layout. They led to the basement.
Dear, please spray the basement. Will you?
Before I could answer, the kid somewhat loudly asked,
Wait, Grandma, he's going into the basement? Grandma, why the basement?
I thought of this very odd as my neck chilled to goosebumps. I stepped back onto the wood and stopped at the tooth-white door, expecting the old lady to open it for me. She had done this the whole way through the house, opening cabinets, windows, doors, flipping on the light switches for me, but here I am with the old woman standing firm in the same spot, and the kid saying the same question, starting to cry. I looked back at the door as she said,
Yes, that door. The light switch on the left. Close the door when going down. We don't go down into the basement.
My heart started to race, and my fingers and forearms twisted the knob. Opening the door, replying,
We don't go down into the basement. We don't go down into the basement.
What the fuck does that mean? I took one last look at her and saw only a part of the woman. Due to the kitchen wall, sit down and grab something off of her neck and sift it through her hands. She then did something my ears will never forget. She started to pray in Spanish. And I took my first step down. I shut the door behind me and then I switched the light on. It was very dim, only giving me the bare minimum brightness to reach the bottom. The walls were different as I descended. The light didn't bounce off them. Instead, the walls let the light in. The old woman's prayers and the child's crying muffled the creaks that the wooden staircase gave off. The prayers were getting louder. I dreadfully got on the floor of the basement now. To the left, a wall. To the right, a long hallway leading to complete and utter darkness. My body felt a shiver, like flying to a cold part of the world, and those airport doors exposing you to the weather for the first time. My head naturally looked down at my feet for some reason. There was a door to the right of me, now, which I saw coming down the stairs. I shifted toward it, with my boot covers scraping the carpet tips. Uneasily, I opened it. The boiler room was dark, as the swing of the door brought a string to my vision. The light of this room, of course, is a fucking string light. I pulled on it, hard, and light struggled to do its job. The light reminded me of my 7th grade science teacher, Mr. Crutcher, told us what would happen if a light bulb traveled at the speed of light in space.
You will see the light, yes. But it will reflect no light. Precisely. What is a light bulb more than a mere tool that reflects light off of other things?
The memory should have put a smile on my face. I then sprayed around the water heater and the cotton candy pink insulation sticking out from the room walls. My heart began beating faster and a veil of sickness came over me. The cold got stronger. The place was sick itself. Holding my hand up and wrapped around the string, I paused. Something deep inside of me telling me not to shut the light off. I almost felt as if someone with a remote was controlling my movements. I was separated from myself. I let the string slither out of my hand as I walked out of the room, now looking back down at my boots, as if something didn't want me to look up. What would I see if I looked up? The exposed insulation made the old woman's prayers fuzzy. But now, I was back in the hallway. I could hear the extent of it. She was screaming now. I imagined her old neck veins popping, blue miniature rivers flowing up her wrinkly face. I faced the hallway now, the walls darkening the further they got from the top stairway light. My brain was yelling at me to hurry and go as fast as I could, but my body did not listen. We were disconnected. I took my first step, still looking at my feet, seeing the dark entrance from the hallway getting closer. Another step I go. I get closer. Step closer. I now know the sick thing in this home is the dark void I approach every step, waiting. I finally reach the end of the hallway, and my body stops. The old woman's screams reach a pinnacle. The kid, crying and yelling, accompanies it. I am all alone. Even my brain is alone. I can do nothing. The darkness is all around me. I twitch my head to the right. It reminds me of the old woman's movements. And I reach out to feel for a light switch. Nothing. When I do this, I can see in the dark room slightly, my hat shading me from most, not all. My head comes back down to the center. I feel like throwing up now. My sickness is terrible. My head is spinning, and so is my stomach. All of my extremities are ice now. Now, I twitch my head to the left. I have to reach in between what looks like a dresser. I push my hand through. My hand grazes the sandpaper wall. And I feel a switch. My heart relaxes from the touch. Finally, I'm not alone anymore. The light switch accompanies me. My finger flips the switch. My stomach drops. Nothing. My breath seems like a car engine that never turned over. The only thing that is with me now is gone. No light. I won't move. I can't move. My hat doesn't cover it all. There is a jolt of movement in the darkness accompanied by the sounds of bones cracking under loose skin. My eyes widen like headlights turning on. The stinging of the hallway light behind me becomes audible, and it pops in its shell. There is no more light except bleeding out of the boiler room. I hear the hinges yawn as the door closes, sucking the only light left in the basement. I now feel like I'm floating. My eyes have nothing to cling to for a sense of space. The sounds of bones breaking and almost moving under skin gets closer. The air is thick around me. From out of the darkness, a woman's voice scraped out.
I see you.
My body snaps out of its immovable grasp. I sprinted toward where I thought the stairs were. I hit the wall at the end of the hallway, hearing the bone snapping sounds following. I made a left, up the first landing step as my shoe covers slipped on the carpet, my nails digging up the steps as I regained my footing. The boiler room door now swung open and slammed closed, over and over, almost like it was clapping or something. The metal pump tank hit each carpet step with a muffled clink. My skin was slick with sweat and my body galloped up the stairs. I saw the outline of the door come into view, right as the sound behind me, to which I can only describe as elastic skin tearing away from itself, making a snapping sound. Whatever it was behind me let out a gurgle scream right before I burst through the door. The door swung open as I got ahead of it and slammed it just as fast. I held the door closed, expecting to meet a bounce or break in the wood. Nothing. I turned my head to the old woman, and she was staring at me wide-eyed, holding a rosary in her veiny hands. The kid's wet face did the same stare. The old woman's voice cracked.
You're back?
I walked out of the house yelling, "I'm done!" at the top of my lungs. I had nothing else to say. I was drained. The rain hit me, accompanied by the humidity as I walked to the truck. I threw my shit in the back and hopped in the truck. I called my boss and I said I got sick. I needed the rest of the day off. I sit here now in the high-rise, writing this. The rain is drumming against the windows. The dark clouds color everything in a shade of gray. I needed to get this out. I can't tell anyone. They wouldn't believe me. So I write, like I've always done. End of entry. I closed the notebook, unable to read on the next entry. I sat at my desk with no words to say. I need a break. I got up and poured a heavy glass of whiskey and touched my lips to the glass. Smooth, warm liquid ran down my throat. I need time to process this. I'm sure you all do too. I will upload more of Jake's entries when I have the time. Thank you for listening.